Welcome to Full Scope, a podcast designed to analyze the games that we love, the headlines of music, and the movies we can't forget. I'm your host, Wellington Burns, and I'm joined by a special guest for this episode, Life Lessons episode, Elisha Parris, student pastor at Victory Church. Thanks so much for being on for the first time, man.
What's up? Glad to be here.
Absolutely, man. And for this Life Lessons episode, we're going to be talking to Elisha about different things he's involved in. I kind of want to start off with kind of like when did you know God called you to be a student pastor at Victory Church? Like when did you kind of like have that moment where like you knew that was the direction you kind of wanted to go into?
Yeah, so it actually started way before I even knew what Victory Church was.
Yeah.
When when I got saved at 18, I was in a deep, dark place, suicidal, depressed.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
an acquaintance invited me to church, and I said yes. Walked into Sunday at a little satellite campus, Calvary Chapel, West Boca,
Hmm.
and heard the gospel and responded. And the same day that youth pastor was like, "Hey, you want to be a youth leader?" And I'm like, what is that? Uh,
Yeah.
the next day I came out after work, walked onto this open field, empty, and I heard the audible voice of God. I didn't know what it was at the time, like prompted me, but I heard
Hmm.
you doing this for the rest of your life. And I was like, doing what? And
Wow.
I said that I look, and then the buses start pulling up to drop off kids from school, and they start running over to the church and everything. I'm like, okay.
Here
And
we
that's
go.
when it started. That was 13 years ago. And so I became a youth leader, served at that church for 4 years, came to Victory,
Mm.
at Victory for almost 10 years now. Was a youth
A
leader.
decade run on a
Yeah.
decade run.
The faithfulness. You
Yeah, yeah,
you're
absolutely.
rooted somewhere. But was a youth leader and just volunteered at the church. And after about almost 3 years, got hired for production director, and then
Mhm.
served in that position for about a year and a half. And then I took over student pastor,
That's
and
awesome,
then
man.
never looked back.
That's incredible, man. Like it's because I was there, I was there last summer when my brother Pastor Tyler visited, and it's like it you guys have such like an inclusive community. Like how important is community like when you're working at a place like that, like to know like the people you're going to be with, day in day out.
It's everything, honestly. I've been in workspaces where it's like do the job and and then move on like that. But when you're working at a church, it's so different because there's so many different types of people involved.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, Not just from the staff, just from congregation, uh,
Hmm.
partners, everything. And so it's beautiful how God just brings so many different types of people together, uh,
Hmm.
and then stories just unfold. And we see the best of ourselves and the worst of ourselves. But community, it has been everything. I know for myself, for my wife, for our family in general, getting involved in adoption and foster care and stuff like that. So it's just amazing what God can do with people when they decide to say yes.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And getting into like what you do for it, for the people that you're ministering to, the young people that you're ministering to, like what's that like week to week preparation of like, you have your own life, you have a family, you're married. How do you manage how you're doing compared to like, okay, now I gotta make sure I fill into these kids and like pour into them while I'm also having to make sure I'm good.
Yeah. Early on, I did not do a good job of this. Like that first year when you're figuring out, like I went from I'm just a youth leader to I'm preaching every Wednesday. Like that, there's
A
no
quick a quick flip
yeah.
right there.
You don't get to show up anymore and just like give
Just
a
be there, yeah.
good talk or prayer. It's like, no, you got to prepare the word, like
Yeah, man,
every
that's
single
heavy.
word. So yeah, that weight hit kind of quickly. And I found myself in that cycle of just like prepare message, prepare message nonstop. And I did drift. And
Mm.
there was no deep intimacy for myself with God. So it was just constant pour out, cover my wife, cover the kids, like
Yeah,
be there for the church. And you start to play a role rather than actually
actually,
being
man,
who you are.
just
Um,
just going through the motions is one of the worst. It's one of the worst feelings at church. It's like, man,
it
it's crazy,
happens,
but it
and
happens. Yeah.
if you're not conscious, you're not aware. And I always tell people like Don't assume that everything you're doing is like inherently bad. Sometimes you walk
Mm,
into things you just weren't prepared for, and the one thing you need to do is address it and then change.
yes, definitely.
So once I finally realized that, I was like, oh man, it's been like a few months since I just opened up my Bible, like not to prepare something. Like I I think I need that for me.
Yeah.
It's like what a great revelation, Eli. Like good job.
Exactly.
So I started to do that, and it comes in different forms each day. Because
Mm,
the hustle and bustle. There's some seasons where it's like, hey, mornings are great. Some seasons where I do something that Pastor Tyler Burns, a brother to me, has taught me, just getting five minutes in the schedule for silence and solitude to go step outside and just listen to the trees and the birds
man.
and be in God's creation. And so
It was
you
the pause. I was watching a message from Pastor Donnie, and he mentioned something about the pause app, and I literally just started
yeah,
doing that, like where I like implement that in. I was like, yo, that's a game changer. Like, you know. And again, I'm
yeah,
not I'm not at the point where you're at. I'm still single, but like I know like at one point when that does happen, like you're going to, need it even more.
yeah, yeah. It I think the biggest thing is make it a priority. Make it a priority. It's easy to get wrapped up, but don't take yourself so seriously, because the world is still going to rotate if you don't get that one thing done.
Yeah. So
And last time I checked, Jesus is still on the throne when you mess up. So
yeah,
we just got to handle it that way.
absolutely. And I mean like I like. And for another question, when you've had to like preach for like the actual church, right? Like,
Yeah.
has there been like what's that like? Like when okay, Pastor Johnny's not here, you got to do it like for the entire church. Like what was that first time when you did that? Like that's a really big responsibility.
Yeah, so my first time preaching at Victory on a Sunday was for this thing we call Voices. So it was five speakers.
Mm,
Each speaker has 7 minutes.
wow.
So we in all three services, so all of us did it, and I was the last one on the line.
Mm,
And so when he had when Pastor Johnny was like, "Hey, I'm gonna have you a part of this voices thing," I was like, "Okay, dope." He's like, "Send me your topic." So I was like, "There's something already on my heart. It's just a message that's always rung true to me." And it was just called transformation, and talking through Second Kings, and just Elijah in the army and his servant freaking out, saying like, "We're
mm,
surrounded on all sides," and he's like, "Lord, open his eyes." It's like there's more
yeah.
with us than there are with them, and so just like it was something that built itself, but that was so inside of me. So I was like, I'm ready to do this. Like 7 minutes, honestly, you can get right to the meat. You don't
Yeah,
gotta
you really
like
can. Yeah.
you just go straight in. And so we get up on the stage. I remember the first service, I'm realizing I'm like, yeah, the 7 minutes isn't what I'm scared of. I'm the last one on the list. What if like everyone else has this like
It's killed
fire
it.
fire word and the church is
Yeah.
losing it, and they get to me and it's just like crickets.
Yeah, it's like, all right.
Oh, I was in my head about that. But then it got to me on the end, and it everything else just faded away. It was like it was a moment where for the first time, because this is before I actually took over officially as student pastor.
Hmm.
But I felt the presence of God. I felt the Holy Spirit just remind me I'm a vessel in such a quick moment, and I just spoke in those 7 minutes. I mean, when I say
That's
we
awesome.
went up, we went up. I
Went
mean,
up,
people
yeah.
were getting out of the
Wow.
streets shouting, and we went back into worship, and I was like, what in the
What
world
just
was
happened?
that? And it was like, what I've never experienced anything like that before. So that was the first time I ever preached on a Sunday. I then had an opportunity after, because right now I preach about 4 to 5 times a year on Sundays, all three services. And Pastor Donnie, it's a privilege,
Yeah, man.
to be trusted by
Absolutely.
your lead pastor to
That's a
say, hey,
big, it's a big trust. Yeah.
yeah, like I'm. It's not just like a youth Sunday. Like I do that every summer. We have our student takeover, but
Hmm.
like no, like you're preaching in a series. I got to close out our Nehemiah series this year, and
Yeah, I was watching that the other man, that's incredible. That's incredible.
that was
I've been
so
going through.
honestly so fun.
I've been
And
looking for a book to dive into in Nehemiah. It's been a really good one.
Hey, go watch that whole series. Pastor Donnie, like from week one, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It
All right.
was coming. I like
Yeah,
those.
definitely. So,
Um,
getting to our next question. So you've dealt with like the youth and the young adults, right? Like both. So like what's the I mean, obviously different age groups, but like what's the biggest difference in when you're like talking to those two groups? Like is there a different angle you have to like go to, or is it just kind of like, connecting with younger people is still,
yeah,
you have to approach them in a different way, but sometimes that age group can even be different. Just talk, with different segments or different subjects that you bring to them.
yeah. What I have realized is, like you said, it's like a touch thing. You have to have a certain tone and a certain approach to different age groups.
Yeah.
My middle school and high schoolers, they do appreciate authenticity. So I give it to them real raw. They know my story personally, know my wife's story. We do
Wow.
not shy away from anything because they need to understand like we lead through vulnerability and transparency. And so they get that grown up side, but with the young adults, oftentimes the way we are structured right now, we don't have a young adult ministry. We are
Mm,
in groups. So all we encourage our young
awesome.
adults to be inside of groups, but we don't have like a specific service. Our lead pastor is also like 34, 35. So,
Dunk.
like it's not that he's preaching over your head. Like it is
Yeah.
very relatable.
And you guys
Um,
have a young, that's a young, lead pastor. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. So
yeah.
it's like we don't have this dire need where, our lead pastor is 60,
Yeah.
70,
It's like, oh
and
man,
he's like,
come
oh yeah, I just
on.
don't know how to
I'm
relate.
dying to get a young voice.
So with the young adults, I've honestly just had I counted a privilege. We do a lot of coffee meetings, and I sit down with
That's what's
them.
up.
And it's just more one-on-one discipleship or
Yeah.
mentorship, and it really is, unfortunately, most times um, helping them course correct.
Mm,
So it is a little bit more direct. It's like I talk a lot more theory when it comes to the younger kids because some of them haven't entered into that yet. But
that part,
then
yeah.
with the young adults, it's like, oh no, we've already reached this part. I've already fallen into more of that sin that you would typically talk about on a Sunday or Wednesday, but I always
Mm,
the youth group. So I get to address some topics a little bit more head on, but with all love and grace and truth, and then help walk them back. But I think both age ranges, honestly, with where we're headed, the digital age and AI and all that stuff is like
that's crazy.
the mind of a middle schooler is way more advanced. That young adult that is a young adult now experience stuff at a later age than this
Hmm.
middle schooler right now, but they're all talking about the same thing. Like my
Yeah.
sixth grader is talking about the same thing because as if he's about to go to his first party, and I'm like, dude, what? You can't even drive. Like
Like
what?
that's the thing. I was at a graduation, high school graduation, because it's been like 10 years since I've graduated high school, and I went to a high school graduation at the same school I graduated from for one of my sister's students, and I like was there and I was like, man, just the differences of like how you felt then, and then you're like 20, now I'm 28. I'm just like, man, just they're gonna go through so much, like because that's the biggest moment for them. They're like, yes, and
Yep.
then it's like then back in freshman year in college, it's just like
Yep.
crazy. But getting to our last question before we get to the second half, like what's the most fulfilling part of pastoring? Like what is that aspect of it that you just feel as like, man, like this is what makes it so worth it? Obviously, you're doing it for the biggest cause, like serving God, but for the kids, like what part of it that just makes it just so fulfilling and just worth it doing it every week?
Man, think the biggest part of pastoring and why I want to do it for the rest of my life is the stories.
Mm,
You know, it's easy to be in our heads and be analytical about the miracles of the Bible and what the
that's what I
Word
work on.
says, and but then it's like when you watch and listen and then see the transformation. Like it's like I don't have enough time. I don't have time to argue anymore because I'm watching people be saved and transformed every single day. Like I have people who are receiving Jesus as their Lord and Savior and then changing their ways. And then I have people who are struggling and falling off, but then needing community and needing somebody to remind them who
It's
they are,
awesome.
and they're it's like that part is the most fulfilling. I get to be exactly what I needed, 18-year-old me, suicidal and depressed, isolated. Like I get to be that for somebody else so that they don't ever have to go through that. So I wouldn't change that for the world. That's why I can see that see myself doing this for the rest of my life. And I told my students on Wednesday because I had a new T-shirt on from Native Supply and it the massive shiesty on the front and it says Rob Hell on the back. And I was like, listen, like I'm committed to this. Like I really am committed to using every breath of my lungs to rob hell until the Lord calls me home. So like that it fulfills me. I don't need to do much. And if God took my voice tomorrow, like I can still do what I do, like
Yeah,
I don't need the microphone. I don't need all the other stuff. Like being with the people and hearing their stories
that's
and
special,
hearing their
man.
testimonies, like that's what I can do.
That's so incredible. Because I mean, like, I was literally talking to a friend about that, about being too analytical, and then the next night, Pastor always said, "Some of you need to work on like overthinking your faith," and I was like, "That's literally what I was talking to." It's just so crazy because it's like we do have an analytical church. Like our church is just like yours is very analytical, and it's like at some point, it's like, man, the truth is right in front of you. And
Yeah.
it's not wrong to think. Like if you're
No.
I'm a thinker. Like it's not wrong. It's just like sometimes it's just like don't overthink the truth. Like when it's standing right in your face, staring right in your face, just accept it. Before we get to breakthrough, I gotta ask you a question. The music you guys have, what's the group called? Hearts by Hearts?
Yeah.
They never miss. Like, do you ever be like, yo, do you guys ever have a like they just every time I watch them, it's just like it's just perfection every time. It's just like what do y'all like out they don't like what's it like seeing them? Because they just be killing it.
Honestly, I tell people all the time, this is one of the best parts of Hearts because I'm not involved in it at all. So I get to be as surprised and in love as everybody else when they drop a sneak peek or whatever. People are like,
Yeah, it's so
man, you didn't
fire.
tell me. I'm like,
I didn't know.
I didn't know. I'm over here hyped like you. Like I see it on Instagram. I'm
Yes.
like drop this tomorrow. Like hello.
Yeah. It's so fire. That's so
And so
fire.
it on it as a creative, I love what's happening in our house right now.
Yeah, man.
And God is just breathing on that. Our creative team, creative director Justin, his brain. I mean, it's unreal the way he sees music. And how he
Man.
pushes boundaries and is always just looking for more creative ways to put out worship songs, and it doesn't have to look one way all the time.
Mhm.
Everybody else who supports, we just have some people who love the worship, and the church goes wild. Like you introduce a new song, sometimes it's like, how's this gonna
Yeah,
go?
it's shaky,
Because
but
it's
like
not
it's
something
just
that can make it
always
found
so
on Spotify yet,
fire. Like,
but
gosh.
it hits every.
It's crazy. It's so dope. We're gonna take a quick break and we'll be right back.